This is the video tutorial for the module 5.3 pretest, which is multiplying polynomials. So, unlike the previous section, we have two terms here and two terms here. So we're not multiplying by monomials now, we're multiplying by binomials specifically on this question. So the main thing we want to know is how we're going to set these questions up. And this is the one where we draw the grid. We write the first term across the top, and then we write the second term down the side. If it's a positive 3, I'm just going to write 3. But if it says negative 1, I am going to put the negative 1 in there. Now we are going to multiply monomials to fill in these answers though. X times 2x, x times negative 1, 3 times 2x, and 3 times negative 1. Remembering we always have an x squared in the top corner, we have a number in the bottom corner, and this diagonal here should have terms that you can actually combine. I always like you to put the loop in here just to remind yourself you're not finished with the question once you fill in the grid. There's something else you've still got to do. I also like it because it reminds you that you're finished with multiplication now. So you're actually going to do 6 add negative 1, which would give you 5x. Starting at the top here, I got 2x squared. These terms added to make 5x, and then I got my negative 3 at the end. When we get on to question 2, I got the same thing, 2a minus 3b. Oops. And obviously you've got to get rid of that right now. 2a plus 3b, and then times. 2 times 2 is 4, a times a is a squared. Noticing again, we've got our squared in that top corner. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, ab in alphabetical order. 3b times 2a, 3 times 2 is 6, and then ba, just flip it so it's back in alphabetical order. And then last one, 3 times negative 3 is negative 9, and b times b is b squared. If you put the loop around here, we got 6 take away negative 6, which is going to be 0. So I'm not putting anything for that at all. I'm definitely not putting 0. As we move on to the third part for this question, squared, like we saw earlier, means you're multiplying by itself. So I'm writing 7y plus 2 across the top, but I'm also going to write down 7y plus 2 down the side as well. 7 times 7, y times y. 7 times 2, and then the y. 2 times 7 with the y. And then 2 times 2 is 4. As you put the loop here, 14 add 14 gives you 28. And then the other two terms just came from here. 49y squared. And I put negative 4 here, but this clearly says positive 4. So let's go ahead and change that there. For my fourth question, I have 2 terms times by 3 terms. When I have that, I personally prefer to put the 3 terms across the top, which is why I draw 3 boxes across. And I put my 2 terms down the side. 6 boxes to fill in this time, but same rules. Numbers first, letters second. So remember 1 and 2 gives you your exponent of 3 on that question. I got negative 3 with a times a, which is a squared. A times 1 is 1a. I'm just going to write down a, but you can put 1a if you like. 2 times 5 is 10 with a squared. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6 with an a. And 2 times 1 is 2. This time, there's actually 2 loops to look at. And I put them in different colours to make them stand out a little bit more. And remember, we're just adding at this point. So 10 add negative 3 is positive 7. Negative 6 add 1 is negative 5. And you can see the other terms are just taken from the boxes that weren't looped together. Find the sum of the areas of the figures below. Well, first of all, I recognise sum means I've got to add. So I've got to find the area of this shape, and I've got to find the area of this shape, and then I've got to add the 2 answers together. So we've got a lot to do on this question. So this will be a very high scoring question. We basically just need to split up into sections though. With doing area, we're going to multiply the 2 sides together, so this times this. So I've got on this side here, and I wrote this side down the side here, 6n minus 1. Go ahead and you fill in the grid for this one. Do the same with this question as well. Fill in the grid for this one. And then simplify each answer. So negative 3 add 12 is positive 9. And on this one, negative 2 add 21 is positive 19. As this question said sum, that means I want to add these 2 areas together. So I've set up an addition problem right at the bottom here. And then just go ahead and add. 18 add 6 is 24. 9 add 19 is 28. Negative 2 and negative 7 is negative 9. So I'm just adding like terms here. And once again, just remember, you're not adding the exponents here because you're only adding. We only add the exponents when we're actually multiplying. Now, our questions with tiles look slightly different from what we saw on IXL, mainly because they don't actually write in each of the shapes what the actual thing is. You kind of have to work that out. Also, we have different colours here as well, so where it's in white, we know that's positive, and when it's shaded in, we know that's going to be negative. Now, if I do work out the areas, x times x is x squared, so that's what I have in that top corner, pretty much like I had on my grid. I had something that was squared in that top corner, and how many of them? 4. Unfortunately, a lot of our answer choices actually have 4x squared in, so that's not going to help us too much. Now, I also see, though, these little ones at the bottom, these are all little ones, and if I count them up, I can see there's 16 of them, and it's positive. So I'm going to go with positive 16. Notice that says negative 16, and that says negative 16 as well. So I'm starting to narrow down my answer choices. The rectangles correspond to x's, and I can see that there's 16 of them, but I can also see it's negative because of the shading. So that would give me negative 16x, which would actually give me answer choice C. And I tried to make that a little clearer. I had to write negative x sideways on here, but that might help you to figure out a little easier what I was doing on those questions. If you need particular practice on these ones, certainly as we head into 2020, as this video is filmed, Z8, Z9, and Z10 are very useful for this. If you'd like extra practice on the tile questions, Z2, Z3, and Z7, all from Algebra 1, are all very good to practice that skill as well.